I gripped it tightly in my hand, torn between going through with it or not. My eyes shifted to the woman standing in front of me. Her cheeks were flushed and her eyes sparkled as she gazed at me. Seeing her up close was breathtaking. She was so incredibly beautiful. I could tell she had gathered all her courage to be here, and if that was the case, I wanted to honor her wishes too. After all, I felt the same way she did. So I pushed it in all the way. I'll never forget the joy on her face in that moment, for as long as I live. What I'm about to share with you is the story of a fateful reunion with a woman who once despised me. My name is James Peterson. I'm a 32-year-old gynecologist working at a hospital. Though I'm now steadily building my experience as a doctor, my journey to this point was far from straightforward. I had to overcome 2 failed attempts before I finally got into medical school, or rather, I didn't even take the exam for 2 years. In high school, I was in the top performing class and well within the range of getting into a medical school. But on the day of the preliminary exam, my chronically ill mother collapsed. The exam became the least of my concerns, and I didn't go to the exam center. I spent the next 2 years caring for my mother, who was teetering between life and death. It might have been a detour, but there's nothing more important than life, so I have no regrets. Sadly, my mother eventually passed away, but I'm glad I was there for her. I had always dreamed of becoming a doctor, and my mother's battle with illness only strengthened that desire. So 2 years later than my peers, I entered medical school. Now, as a practicing doctor, I was surprised when a woman transferred to my hospital. The beautiful classmate from high school who used to hate me, Amanda, had become my patient. It would be more accurate to say that she was always competing with me rather than hating me. Amanda and I attended the same preparatory school, and we were always vying for the top grades. She treated me as her rival, though I didn't see her that way. Still, competing with her motivated me to study harder. Maybe because she saw me as a rival, she was always tough on me. She often told me, "I will not lose to you." But I admired her competitiveness, which was a stark contrast to my laid-back personality. I thought it was cool. In high school, I hadn't told anyone except my homeroom teacher why I didn't take the exam. I couldn't bring myself to say that my mother was critically ill. It was too serious, and I was scared. I didn't want to say it out loud because the scene of my mother collapsing in front of me would replay in my mind. I couldn't bear the sympathetic looks from everyone. But Amanda, not knowing the reason, seemed to think that I had chickened out of the exam. "You didn't have the confidence and you ran away, not even going to the exam site. You're such a coward," she had insulted me, refusing to speak to me from then on. She got accepted into a prestigious university, the very one she claimed she would get into since our freshman year of high school. She was honest with her feelings and straightforward, hard on herself and others. But she never shied away from the effort that matched. To me, she seemed dazzling. Who would have thought that Amanda would end up as my patient? I wondered how she would react to our reunion, which was a mix of happiness and a bit of fear. I first saw Amanda again at a convenience store before work. She didn't know yet that I was her attending doctor since I hadn't greeted her as such. Perhaps because I was in casual clothes, she glared at me the moment she saw me and slightly laughed. "Still just a high school grad and already a sick loser in life, huh?" It seemed that, in her eyes, I was still a failure for not taking that exam. "Actually, I'm your doctor," I replied. "What? What are you talking about?" she asked, bewildered. I showed her my name tag, which clearly stated my title as a doctor. She stared at it in a daze. After revealing at the store that I was her doctor, Amanda left without saying a word. Later, I went to her room to greet her. Later, she still didn't say anything, perhaps holding on to some lingering anger. Amanda had been diagnosed with ovarian cancer at another hospital and was transferred to my hospital for surgery. The hospital where I work has a strong reputation in gynecology, attracting patients from other facilities for advanced surgeries. After examining her condition, it seemed likely that one of her ovaries would need to be removed. The extent of the cancer's progression and the treatment plan would be determined after the surgery. But then Amanda said something completely unexpected. "I'm not going to have surgery." "Excuse me? What did you say?" I asked, taken aback. "Listen carefully, you dummy. I said I'm not having surgery. If you got it, just leave me alone." I explained the importance of the surgery, but she wouldn't listen. I wondered if her reluctance had anything to do with me, so I asked other doctors and nurses to talk to her. But no matter who spoke to her, Amanda refused the surgery without giving any reasons. I wanted to respect her wishes, but I also wanted her to choose a path that valued her life above all else. One day, as I was wrestling with how to handle Amanda's refusal, I passed by her room and heard raised voices inside. So, it's going to be an ovarian removal, huh? We have to call off the engagement, a man was saying, his voice laced with irritation. It was the first time I saw someone visiting Amanda. He was speaking harshly to her. One of my ovaries will still be left. There won't be any problem, Amanda said, trying to sound confident. You don't know that for sure. What about the chances of getting pregnant? They'll be lower than normal, right? Can you even have children if you go through with this? If you can't, there's no point in us getting married, he retorted coldly. Please don't say things like that. I'm not going to have the surgery. If I don't, both of my ovaries will remain, she said, her voice trembling. A derisive laugh echoed through the room. So there won't be a complete cure for the cancer, right? And my wife will be a cancer patient. That's out of the question. The only thing I want for my wife is to bear children who will carry on my superior genes. I heard ovarian cancer can be hereditary. It would be a disaster if our child inherited it. I heard Amanda's soft sobs. If you're worried, let's get tested to see if it could be passed on. Just the fact that you have cancer is a huge turnoff. Don't drag me into your illness. You can handle it alone. Damn, I thought I had found a woman with both brains and beauty, but you're just defective. I couldn't tolerate this man who didn't even understand the disease and arrogantly assumed it was inherited. His words were cruel, reducing Amanda to a mere vessel for his superior genes. What mattered most now shouldn't be whether his genes survived, but her life. Even if she wanted children, it is women who bear the risk in childbirth. I couldn't stand by as this man disrespected her like that. Don't you love me anymore? Please don't abandon me. Amanda's voice was weak, a stark contrast to the dazzling, determined girl I remembered from high school. Seeing her cry and cling to such a scumbag made me furious. Unable to stand it any longer, I entered the hospital room. Nice to meet you. I'm Dr. Peterson, her primary physician. My sudden entrance startled them both. I could hear you all the way from outside. If you're not family, you should leave, I said sharply. The man shot me an irritated look. That's quite disrespectful of you. I've taken time out of my schedule for this woman. Even more reason for you to leave. Her valuable time is being wasted talking to you. If you're not idle, you should be on your way, I responded coldly. Tisk. The man clicked his tongue, glaring at Amanda. Is it okay if I leave? If I go, it's really over between us. Okay? His tone was mocking, as if he found amusement in watching Amanda cling and cry. Amanda's sobs grew louder as she alternated her gaze between him and me. The strong-willed Amanda I once knew was nowhere to be seen, and that frustrated me. Do you really need to cling to this kind of man? I asked her gently. The Amanda I knew wasn't someone who compromised on herself. I heard you studied hard and got a good job at a great company. You worked just as hard in college, didn't you? You're an amazing person. Marriage is supposed to be a lifelong decision, right? You don't deserve someone who neglects your life and talks about your genes and defects. The man shouted, You're mocking me, as he listened to my words, but I ignored him. Amanda, however, was quietly watching me. In that moment, she seemed like a lost child, doubting her path because of the harsh words from the man. Yeah, he's unsuitable. There should be someone else who will appreciate and cherish a hard worker like you. So don't lower yourself to the level of a scumbag like him, I said firmly. Amanda closed her eyes and took a deep breath. When she opened them again, they were clear, no longer filled with tears. She stared down at the man. We're done. Leave now. Are you sure you want to talk to me like that? I might forgive you if you apologize now. The man bluffed, his earlier bravado clearly gone. I've had enough. We're finished. I'm glad I found out how small-minded you are before we got married. What was I thinking? How did I not notice until now? I can't stand people who look down on the sick or see women as mere tools for childbirth. I'm baffled as to what I ever saw in you. Leave right now, she commanded. The man was speechless, chastised by the woman he once looked down upon. I opened the door to the hospital room, gesturing for him to leave. Please never come back, I said with a smile. The man looked frustrated but fled the room. Now, with just the two of us in the hospital room, I asked for her permission and took a seat by her bed. Sorry for eavesdropping and barging in. But that guy, he's an absolute jerk. I couldn't stand it. Eavesdropping isn't a good habit, but I'll forgive you, Amanda replied, her voice soft. He used to have his gentle moments, but he showed his true colors when I felt ill, Amanda said, her voice tinged with regret. Yet I was already in love with him, clinging to him shamefully. I wonder if my illness weakened me. Did you refuse surgery for his sake? I asked gently. She nodded slightly, confirming my suspicion. It seemed she believed that if she didn't have her ovaries removed, he would stay by her side. But avoiding the surgery wouldn't cure her illness. Perhaps the emotional toll of the cancer had clouded her judgment, leaving her unable to see the situation clearly. She laughed self-deprecatingly. Oh, you've seen an embarrassing side of me. I feel completely exposed, she admitted, a bit embarrassed. It didn't seem fair that she was the only one whose secrets were laid bare. I felt the need to share something personal, something I had kept hidden. I've also hidden something. Can I share it with you? Amanda looked at me curiously as I revealed why I didn't take the college entrance exams. I told her about my mother's critical illness, how I had to postpone my exams for 2 years to care for her. Once I finished, Amanda hit me gently with a pillow. Why did you tell me that? At such a tough time, I accused you of running away, didn't I? That's awful, she said, her tone a mix of frustration and regret. I didn't want to worry you, so I couldn't say it. I thought getting pity would be painful too, I explained. Saying this, she hit me again with the pillow. It didn't hurt at all, but each hit made a comical sound. Why should I be considerate of you, my rival? Why wouldn't I worry about you? I told you to keep up with me, didn't I? I went to college first and worked hard so you couldn't catch up, but I still wanted you to chase me, she said with a grin, her usual competitive spirit shining through. I couldn't help but laugh at her typical words. So you didn't want me to pity you, huh? I guess I misunderstood you. From there, we were engrossed in stories from our student days. The Amanda who had been crying in front of her boyfriend just moments ago was now regaining her energy, occasionally showing anger or laughter. This was the Amanda I remembered, strong, spirited, and full of life. Her clinging to such a terrible guy wasn't like her at all. So what will you do about the surgery? I asked, curious about her decision. She looked at me blankly for a moment before laughing defiantly. Of course, I'm going to do it. I'll get well quickly and work hard again. I worked hard to get into this company, and I'm still going to rise to the top. Her competitive spirit was back in full force, just like in her dazzling student days. She was still shining. The surgery was a success, and a pathology report indicated that the cancer could be completely removed with low malignancy and a low risk of metastasis. At her request, genetic testing was done, which showed no genetic risk for cancer. Both she and I were relieved. During her hospitalization, we talked every day, and the distance between us seemed to close. I enjoyed our conversations, even outside my working hours. Bring me a drink in the afternoon. I'd like something sweet tomorrow. She started making small demands, and I found her adorable for it. I wasn't the only one enjoying our talks. On the day of her discharge, I had prepared a bouquet of flowers for her. As we were leaving the hospital, I handed her the bouquet. Congratulations on your discharge. She looked at the bouquet, then turned her face away with a pout. Can't you see my hands are full? I can't carry any more. Interpreting her response as a refusal to accept the flowers, I felt a bit disheartened. Because I can't carry it, you bring it to my house, she added, her voice softer but firm. Huh? I was still processing what Amanda had just said, staring at her blankly. What did you just say? That's what I said. Since I can't carry it, you bring the flowers to my house. But, Amanda, I don't know where your house is, I replied, still confused. She then placed a piece of paper with something written on it in my pocket. I reached into my pocket and felt the paper. What's written here? I asked, curious. My contact and address. You need to bring the flowers. Call me after work, she replied with a small smile. It seemed that Amanda was willing to see me outside the hospital. I clenched the piece of paper in my hand, hesitating for a moment. Could I really keep this in my pocket just like this? As I pondered what to do, I looked at Amanda, who was standing in front of me. Her cheeks were turning red, her eyes moist as she looked at me. Surely she had made up her mind to be here with me. If that's the case, I wanted to respond to her wishes too. After all, I felt the same way about her. That's why I firmly pushed the paper into the depth of my pocket. Even if you ask for this back, I won't return it, I said with a smile. Hearing my words, she seemed to relax, perhaps releasing some tension as well. I'll probably never forget the joy on her face at that moment for the rest of my life. When I returned to the office and looked at the note, I smiled at her characteristic way of making a request. It was written, "Absolutely, you contact me," along with her contact information. That evening, after finishing my work, I quickly contacted her and rushed to her house to deliver the bouquet. I hadn't run like that in years. Now, 2 years later, I live with my wife, Amanda. We do fight a lot, but my wife, who still looks pretty and cute even when she's mad, makes me happy. All in all, I want to continue cherishing my wife with her sweet and fierce sides, and who never fails to pack me lunches filled with love.